I met my ex-wife at a train station in Gloucestershire, and we were together for 7 years. We were married for 2. She had a first affair a year into our marriage. Or should we call it dalliance? I wasn't entirely sure how how far it went. We just decided to deal with it in-house, and it was a bit of a shock, but moved on. Then a year after that, she dropped the bombshell that she'd in fact been having an affair with another man at work for 4 months, and that's where all the cards started falling down in my life. I felt very angry, extremely hurt. Betrayed, predominantly extremely angry. I was consumed with the injustice of it all, because in a worldly sense we had everything, a wonderful place to live. She was very beautiful. I thought I had literally everything. So I realised that I was in fact shored up or anchored up on a pretty much nothing. It was quite destabilizing, shall we say. I instantly went into denial. We tried to reconcile. I stayed together in the same flat, and she was very apologetic the first week, and then those apologies sort of run out, and eventually I realised that in fact she'd been seeing him continually whilst we were trying to reconcile, and that's when I moved out. I moved out to my wonderful friend's house on his floor for 3 months, and fully expected her to come and get me. And my parents were divorced when I was a kid, and I'd always vowed that I'd never be one of them that got divorced. She didn't come back, and she'd in fact been seeing him all that time whilst I was waiting for her. So that's when I jumped straight into another relationship. I had all this love to give someone, so I found someone to give it to, and that was just purely a crutch. And then that relationship very quickly dissolved, and that's when everything came home to roost. So the lowest moment was just actually starting to understand the gravity of the situation, because jumping into this other relationship was my basic self-protection mechanism, purely trying to put a plaster on it, move on. It's basically how I sort of approached life, really. Never really dealt with any pain, although there had been plenty of it. When you're shored up on a relationship and put all your love and heart into another person, and that person then takes that away, I realised there was no protection for that. She had full control of my heart and was just merrily pummeling it to pieces. So that was probably the lowest bit. I was very, very depressed. A friend suggested that there was this wonderful course that supported people like me. I had plenty of family and friends who were very sympathetic, but really didn't understand really what I was going through. So I went along to this course, and when I said I was angry, I was very angry. I remember vividly, I nearly got kicked out for swearing so much. I was a very angry chap, and they were very supportive, and it was lovely to speak to people going through the same thing as I was at that time, being able to share in that pain in that moment. There were a few points in that course. So the course was wonderful in general, but there was one graph that they showed me, the journey of separation and divorce. It wasn't like your standard linear graph. It was sort of back up and down and squiggly all around, and it felt very synonymous with how I felt. I was on that trajectory, and I didn't know there was that. So it was very comforting to actually register where I was on that graph. Even though it was straight down, I could see where acceptance was and where forgiveness came in, because I was a long way from accepting my situation, and I was even further from forgiving. And I think what that graph showed me, and also the talks, was that those two aren't nice to haves. I had to accept and I had to forgive, and those were the turning points really for me. At the time, the anger and feelings of injustice, and I clothed myself with, sort of felt sorry for myself really, had become corrosive. They weren't protecting me, they were eating me inside. And so what the turning points of sort of accepting where I was, and yes, it was a pretty bum deal, but there was hope at the end of the tunnel, was it took a huge weight off my shoulders. The anger and self-loathing, hatred of them. Yeah, I mean, all of these were very, very corrosive feelings, and it helped sort of dissipate that. It didn't get rid of it straight away. I mean, the forgiveness is not a one-step shot. I had to forgive daily, even hourly at the beginning. It was a continual process, but slowly and surely it did work. It was the elixir, the magic pill. So right now, I feel utterly set free from my ex-wife and the guy that she ran off with. They have a child of their own, and they got eventually married, and I wish them all the best. Frankly, that's the miracle, because I mean it, and I certainly wouldn't have meant it at that time. One of the benefits that I found during the apocalypse of after the event was actually finding out who I was. And I would hope that was finding out the things that I enjoyed. I'd actually given up an awful lot to try and, there was a lot of compromise and in relationship, but I realised I really don't like R&B. And maybe you'll find out what music or theatre or walks or that was something that was part of my healing, was finding the things that James really enjoys. I really enjoyed doing that, so I encourage that. To someone who's going through what I went through, I would first express my deep and very sincere sympathies, because I've had quite a bit of pain in my life. That tops the lot, and there isn't a silver bullet. There isn't a magic pill. It does take time. The course massively helped me, and I would thoroughly endorse it. I'm not being paid to say that. It really, 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 really helped me.